Upgrades.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another JVS movie review. Today, I am bringing you a review of a movie that, one, it was a sequel I didn't know I needed to see. Two, it is a sequel that, at one point in time, the studio did not believe should be released in theaters. And three, it is a sequel to one of the best horror movie franchises of all time. And this one is Evil Dead Rise. So let's quickly get into the synopsis and then we'll get into the film. And here it is. After a long journey on the road, Beth visits her sister, Ellie, who is struggling to raise her 3 kids alone in a small LA apartment. However, their reunion is interrupted when they find a strange book hidden in the depths of Ellie's building, which unleashes a horde flesh-possessing demons. The necromancer, for anybody that wants to know. That's what they find in that book. Clearly it has to be that because this is the Evil Dead film. So here's the quick cast. It's Lily Sutherland as Beth, Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie, Morgan Davies as Danny, Gabrielle Echols as Bridget, and Nell Fisher as Cassie. The last 3 are the kids in the film. And the other 2 are the 2 main characters in this film as we see the war back and forth here. I'll start off by saying this. When Evil Dead Rise was first announced, it was supposed to be strictly an HBO Max movie. That's what everybody thought. This was going to be an HBO Max movie. But when the transition happened between the studios, it switched from an HBO Max movie to a theater release. And I'm going to say that this was one of the best ideas they could have possibly made, as Evil Dead Rise so far this year is the best horror movie of this year. Not only is it the best horror movie of this year, unlike the 2013 Evil Dead film that was made, this movie, Evil Dead Rise, feels so much closer to the first 2 movies. This feels like the perfect successor to those first 2 films in the sense of the gore, the horror, and the one thing that was missing from 2013's remake, and that was the comedic element of Evil Dead. That's what makes Evil Dead good, is that once the necromancer gets a hold of someone, while it leads to gore, death, and everything else, it leads to some very funny moments. And 2013, I think, forgot about those funny moments at times. And here, they don't forget about it at all. This movie is perfectly paced. Directed by Lee Cronin. I think this is his second film. The first one was then called Hold. I think so. It was a horror movie called Hold that came out. He was handpicked by Sam Raimi to direct this film. And when you watch this film, you fully understand why. I don't know if it's that he has a love for the Evil Dead universe, but he seems to have a grip and a hold on exactly how these films should feel and look. And I was blown away, because after the 2013 remake, I wasn't necessarily expecting a lot out of Evil Dead Rise. I didn't know if we were going to get possibly a sequel to that film, which this is kind of that way, but not necessarily. But I meant in a way of the tone and the pace of that film. I thought maybe we would get another director that possibly didn't fully understand the quirkiness that needs to be involved in an Evil Dead film. And instead here with Lee, we get a director who fully understood that and makes, I'm gonna, as close to a perfect Evil Dead movie that can be made in this time period. This is as close as you get here. So the film opens up with, we're introduced to Beth first, as Beth is on the road and we see her going through a little struggle here. Is a little thing that happens that makes her want to draw back to her sister. And the time when she draws back to her sister, she gets to her sister's apartment. We find out that her sister's husband, boyfriend, longtime living lover, wherever he's supposed to be, because I didn't really get the full gist of exactly who he was. I think it was her husband, as he's left the family. And now she's struggling in this small apartment with her 3 kids, and they have a notice that they have to leave this apartment because the apartment is not structurally secure. At the whole time this is happening, as we get the family bonding moment, as we get the 2 sisters just working through their details, understanding like Beth tends to only come to Ellie when there's a problem, but it's not on the reverse where she's there for Ellie when Ellie is going through stuff. This beginning 5 to 10 minutes of this film, it really does a great job at setting up the relationship between the sisters and setting up the relationship of this family. And that's highly important for horror films. If you ever know, you want to kind of get through that quickly because you understand just what's about to happen afterwards. So during the course of all of this, the kids go out for dinner and then we get an earthquake And when the earthquake happens, the necromancer appears as one of the kids ends up going down into a cave at the bottom of his building and finds a necromancer and finds records. This is the character played by Morgan Davies. He finds records and everything to play to find out what this book is. And this is where we get a quick little cameo of Bruce Campbell as he plays a preacher on one of the recordings. Very funny that they actually did that. But there's also some rumors that possibly the reason you hear him is because that's actually Ash that you hear on there. So that's just another little Easter egg element of it that really makes this film amazing. But once the Necromancer gets released is when this movie goes bonkers. This movie is absolutely sickening once the Necromancer get released. This is what I meant by understanding the elements of Evil Dead. As we see the transition of Ellie, as she's the person who gets possessed here, it's so good. It will blow your mind away. One, the practical effects it seems like they use to do this, the makeup that they use on Ellie as we see her go deeper and deeper and deeper into descent, it's great. This is the type of stuff where you're happy that they didn't over CGI it to do a lot of stuff. This feels like it's a lot of practical effects in this film, and I think that's highly important, especially to go along with Lee's cinematography in this film, because the film looks great. The tones, the color blocking, everything is amazing. And if you pair that well with really good makeup, really good practical effects, you get this film that goes from 0 to 100 within the first 15 minutes. But in that 15-minute block, it puts you so well and so deep into the Evil Dead universe that you don't mind that eventually it becomes nonstop. And you don't mind the buildup of the story. And it makes the mark at the places that the 2013 remake didn't make the mark at. And I don't know if this feels like possibly Sam was maybe more involved in this one than he was with the 2013 film. Definitely feels like Lee has a better grip on this universe, and the actors, every single one of them, down to the children, because here's really important for this film, is that the children are just as important as adults is to this storyline. And every one of them give really good performances. We enjoy the humor of this film. We enjoy the little neighbors that pop up here and there, because kind of if they pop up as a neighbor, and we don't really talk much about you, we kind of know what's going to happen to you in this film. And all of it goes along that route, especially at the very, very beginning of this film is a completely different storyline that's happening here. And that storyline only lasts for about 2 minutes. But it sets up that the Necromancer is out, but it doesn't tell you anything. And the way that this film goes from that beginning sequence to the main sequence to wrap it all back up again is brilliant. Because this film not only rebounds from the 2013 film, it literally sets up what can be a very interesting sequel while not at any point in time sacrificing the crux of what would make this film great. And this film is great because it's so many callbacks to the original Evil Dead franchise that I absolutely love here. Lily Sullivan, who plays Beth, I'm not going to say she's the new Ash, and I know a lot of people are going to say that because some of the symmetry that you get here, but it is enough, and her performance is so good that it's going to entrance you and make you want more of this character, especially in the back half of the film as we see the transition of her to this more forceful type of character, and we get some scenes that look like something that happened in the first couple of films. I think people are going to lose their minds when they see it, but it doesn't come across as just nostalgia for nostalgia purposes. It comes across for a reason, and it works really well when it happens. This is the Evil Dead film that any Evil Dead fan has been waiting for. I mean, again, if you were disappointed by the last Evil Dead film, and then you get this film, I think this film is going to take you to a completely different place. Because, again, if you're a fan of this Evil Dead universe, between Army of Darkness, which is one of my favorite films, but it doesn't necessarily, it's an Evil Dead related film, but not an Evil Dead film. And then when you got the 2013 film, which didn't necessarily give you any elements of Evil Dead that most people wanted, and then you get this film that gives you every element of it, along with great performances, along with a great director. You couldn't ask for more here and out of this film. So, Evil Dead Rise, which drops in theaters, not HBO Max like it was going to initially, but in theaters on April the 21st. Out of a possible 10, I'm going to give Evil Dead Rise a 10 out of 10. This, again, is as close to a perfect Evil Dead film that you can get in 2023. I don't think they could have come closer no matter what they did here. The performances are great. Lee's direction is phenomenal here. He is someone who, I think this is on his second film. I want to say second film. If this is on his second film, going forward, he's someone everyone needs to look at in this horror genre because he clearly knows what he's doing. And his love for the material he shoots is so apparent when you're watching this movie. I think people are just going to absolutely love it. I can't think of a negative thing to say. The pacing was good. The cinematography was good. The score is an Evil Dead score. It works perfectly. The performances from every key member of this cast is really good. This, people, is the horror movie you need to see. I know right now there's for especially this week or the week before the release of this film, it's a gluttony of horror movies out there in different subgenres of horror. This is the one you have to see, and I think you'll absolutely love it. This has been another JVS movie review. Peace, people.